Welcome, everyone. I'm here with our XPX Triangle member and sponsor, Kenneth Marks. Kenneth, thank you for being here today. And just to introduce myself, I'm Cheryl Centeno. I'm our communications manager for the XPX Global team. And Kenneth was nice enough to join us to talk about the release of his new book that's coming out in October. So, Kenneth, if you want to kind of start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your chapter and your company background.
Sure, happy to do that. So, XPX here in Research Triangle Park. I'm in Raleigh, but as many of you know, that's Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill type area. Is a relatively, I think it's a relatively new chapter. What is it? 2 years now, I believe.
Correct.
And yeah, it's a great group of people continuing to grow. I wish I was actually more active and able to attend more events. As we came out of COVID, we ended up with, we like everybody else, we ended up with virtual events and things like that. And I think we actually launched in the middle of COVID. So, um, and we've got some really great folks from a diverse group of skill sets and backgrounds. So it makes for really interesting conversations.
Great. Thank you. And we're kind of the reason why we're here today is to kind of talk about something exciting, which is the release of your new book that you co-authored. Am I correct? And that release date is in October.
It is. It's
So
October.
yeah, so if you could give us a little background, the title is Middle Market M&A. Am I correct?
It is. It is. You had mentioned, and fortunate enough, I'll do this little.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys can see it, but kind of
Perfect.
excited. Yeah, it's really interesting. This is our second edition of Middle Market M&A. Just a little bit of background and context. I run a firm called High Rock Partners. We're a boutique M&A advisory firm. We've been in business for about 17 years, focused on what's considered kind of the lower middle market, $5 million to $50 million transactions. We do some a little bit larger, and we've done a few a little bit smaller, but that's our bread and butter falls in that range. And um, over that 17 years, I've been very active, and I have this little bit of an academic side. Love to write about things and research things, and I had done a book called The Handbook of Financing Growth. If you go back about 20 years ago, through John Wiley and Sons as a publisher, and um, I'm also part of another organization that's called the Alliance of M&A Advisors. I hope that's okay to mention that. And I think probably XPX has a number of members that cross over, and we captured the body of knowledge in our certification program um, about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And that ended up, we ended up having discussions with Wiley and pulled that into a handbook called Middle Market M&A, of which was launched or published about 10 years ago. And so 10 years passes very fast, and we ended up deciding about 2 years ago that, hey, on our 10th anniversary, let's come out with an updated edition, a second edition.
Mhm.
And John Wiley thought that was a great idea, and we did it in their finance series. And so I've led a small group of authors and then contributors to pull this together. So feel very fortunate. It's the title this time, the subtitle we changed just a little bit. It's called the Handbook for Advisors, Investors, and Business Owners. So
Mhm.
we broadened the topic a little bit here and added a whole new section, which deals with exit planning, deals with transition and succession, and deals with the value growth, or how do you, in many cases, in advance of a transaction, how do you look at really kind of optimizing the performance of the business based on who the shareholders are.
Great. And yeah, which is a good segue. If you could just leave us with a few takeaways from the book, Kenneth, because this is a huge resource for our community. So if you could kind of go over some key points of the book.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So the handbook is really broken into four big sections. And we did an update on the middle market. What is the middle market? What's happening in the middle market? What are the trends? And how it's different from, if you think about corporate finance for Wall Street or versus Main Street, how is this middle market different? So we try to address that. As I said, we've added this second section, which is really to business owners, but it's also a great resource for advisors, and investors. And those advisors, when we think about advisors, we're talking about everywhere from attorneys, accountants, exit planners, wealth managers, you name it, folks in corporate development. And then we have a third section that's all about process and in both buy side and sell side M&A process. And then lastly, the bulk of the book is really about kind of the technical content, which is, hey, I need to understand what indemnification of this type, what does that mean? Or what is the quality of earnings? And what's involved with that? And how do you normalize financials? Or what are the tax considerations? And so given the real active level of activity that private equity has in the market, we've really tried to make sure we address the role of private equity and how things kind of play into the private equity world, strategics, and I would say one of the big drivers, if you think about it, in this is the demographic shift that's taking place or has been taking place with the baby boomers, if you will. So we've tried to make it a usable book, whether you're reading the whole thing or you're just looking for the answers of a particular question.
Yeah, I'm sure several of our local chapters would love to have you as a speaker. So, important question: when is the exact release date of the book, and how can our members access it?
Great. Well, yeah, thanks. It's October 4th, so we're coming up here in another couple of weeks. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and John Wiley and Sons. You can go to wiley.com, and in any of those three, it's available for pre-order. And if you have trouble, you can always reach out to us or someone, and we'll figure out how to help you get a copy.